Now, if anyone knows anything about the whims of the consumer, it's Edgewell Personal Care. The company owns brands that you might recognise like Banana Boat, Edge and Skintimate. And it operates in more than 50 markets worldwide. Rod Little is the CEO of Edgewell Personal Care, and he joins us now from Connecticut. Rod, fantastic to have you with us. As we mentioned, you have a unique and acute insight into what the consumer's doing. Even on your last earnings call, you talked about higher competition, an increasingly cautious consumer. Where to and to what extent? Because you do have global reach too.
Yeah, hi, Julia. Good to be with you. Yeah, look, the consumer we're seeing is being very challenged at the moment. We're not seeing declines in our categories. Our categories are growing, although the rate of growth has slowed. And as we look at it going forward, I think, we remain confident that in an environment where there is lots of uncertainty, there's still a path forward if you focus on good ideas, strong innovation, and working to delight the consumer at a fair price every day. You're going to win and be successful. So there's definitely a path there, and it's just basic fundamentals around how you delight consumers.
I mean, I've got some of your products here that some of our viewers may recognise, may even use at home as an example. I certainly know and read what we see in some of these bigger retail stores is they have own brands too that compete with your products. Sometimes they even look pretty similar too. What kind of substitution effect are you seeing, and how do you try and prevent that? Is it about perhaps lowering prices, which obviously puts pressure on margins too? How do you mitigate that, and are you seeing that?
Yeah, in our case, we have a full range portfolio from premium price products to mid-tier to value. And in shaving, which is our biggest category, we actually make private label brands for some of the biggest retailers out there. We partner with Walmart, Target, Amazon, for example. All of them, we make their private store brand offering. And so we're immunized, if you will, if the consumer does trade down, to participate up and down the pricing ladder. What I'll tell you to this point that we're seeing, which is interesting though, we're not seeing any material shift down to private label. There's maybe a little more search for value with consumers, but no meaningful shift down to store brands or private label in our categories up to this point.
Yeah, but that's how you insulate yourself, isn't it? You end up being the provider to some of these own label brands as well. So not only do you see it, but you also try and insulate yourself, which I think is smart. Can we talk about some of the China dependency that you face? Sunscreens is one of them, I believe. And I know it's a fraction of your business in terms of the sort of Chinese dependency and the concerns about tariffs. But I guess some of the chemicals in this already have 25% tariffs. Is a 60% tariff on some of the chemicals that you add to this prohibitive? How do you mitigate that kind of increase in cost if that's indeed what we see next year?
Well, it's not helpful, certainly, to have tariffs go up from here. As you rightly point out, we already operate in an environment where we're subject to tariffs, and primarily China as the source of the tariffs. Relative to us, and we're scaled as a global player, as you said, roughly 45% of our sales are outside the United States, and so we operate globally. We have a very regionally oriented supply chain. So, for example, what we sell in the United States, we largely make in the United States. What we sell in Asia, we largely make in Asia, and the same goes for Europe. And so roughly 5% of our cost of goods would be subject to tariffs. And so in this case, there's two areas. One would be blade steel. There's just for specialty blade steel, there's no industry here domestically in the States to provide that. And specialty chemical compounds, in this case, sun care chemicals, that the entire industry has to source come from China. You can't buy the chemical compounds anywhere else at the moment. And so we're stuck with that. We obviously will look to move out of that if we can, but it's a small piece of our business and would not be a meaningful financial impact for us personally.
Good to know. There's a beauty in having 40 to 45% of your business internationally, in that you are well diversified. The downside is, I guess, when the dollar is strengthening, bringing those profits back home is a headwind for your numbers. Just talk to that and how perhaps you're mitigating or hedging that, and are you expecting further dollar strength as we push through into 2025? And then what I want you to give me the good news. Is it potential deregulation, business optimism on the fact that corporate tax rates perhaps aren't going to go any higher now as a result of the election? Give me the good news, please.
Yeah, I'll end with the good news, but let's start with foreign exchange. I don't predict the dollar from here up or down necessarily. I've got my own views, but I don't know that I'd make money with my own views. The dollar's strong, as you point out, and our investors count on us to put U.S. dollars into U.S. bank accounts at the end of the day. We're a U.S. domiciled company. So with the strength of the dollar, every sale we have in Japanese yen, for example, or euro or pound-based currencies, when we bring them back, that's a negative impact to us financially. Over time, I think that will settle out to more normalized rates. But it's certainly a headwind at the moment in the environment we're in. But I'll leave you with two things that I think are good news as we look at where we are and where we go from here. One is, I think, in a declining rate environment, albeit maybe slower than what we had anticipated a month or two ago, but still a net declining rate environment, I think that's good for consumers. Borrowing costs go down, and that creates a little stimulation in the economy. The other area where I think there's potentially some good news coming is in the oil markets, in the petrochemical complex. A big piece of our input cost is oil-based, polyethylene, polypropylene, resins. Resins is the biggest thing that we pay for in our cost of goods with plastic use, for example. And as you have oil potentially moving lower, natural gas and those specialty materials that are feedstock based on oil, that's a potential tailwind to help offset the foreign currency or potentially some of the tariff issues that we may face.
Oh, just writing that down. Fascinating. Rod, great to chat to you. I know we'll catch up soon. Thank you so much for your time. Rod Little there.
Thank you, Julia.